Hi, I'm Wes Allen with DM Tales, and today I am looking at a game I picked up at PAX Unplugged. This is my look at No Thank You Evil. Let's roll it. Now, I have to admit, I was not expecting to review this game so fast. I had picked it up at PAX Unplugged because I was looking for things to do with my 5-year-old. I picked this game up and I picked up a storybook called The Little Game Master that I got for him for Christmas. He opened it up. Eventually, he warmed to the concept, looked at the artwork, and wanted to read the book and thought it was fantastic. Then he came into the room where I do my recordings and have my computer set up and saw No Thank You Evil sitting on the bed and said, I want to play that. That looks like Little Game Master. We need to play that right now. I want to play Thank You No Evil. So when he said that, it jumped up on my reading list, and now we've actually played a few adventures. Let's take a look at No Thank You Evil. Monte Cook Games has done something interesting. They have distilled the Cypher System down into a form that is perfect for younger players, and this is what No Thank You Evil is. Just like in the Cypher System, everything in the game has a level from 1 to 8. But you're not doing any multiplication to find your number in this game because the only die you're using is a d6. So you have to roll that number or higher in order to succeed. And just like in the Cypher System, if you are paying attention, you should be asking yourself, well, how do you do a level 7 or a level 8 challenge? Because those numbers don't appear on a d6. And it functions just like its bigger cousin in the Cypher System. Characters can try harder. They spend 1 attribute point in order to lower the number that they need to reach by 1. And characters can also have kind of inborn traits called knacks. This lowers all checks that use a particular stat by 1 as well. And then finally, characters can decide to be awesome. They can take an attribute point called Be Awesome and spend it on another player to help that character do something great, and that lowers the level by 1 again. When you roll a 6 on a check, if you succeed at the task, it is a wild success and you get what the goal was intended to be plus a lot more. And what I like to do when there's a 6 is I like to tell my 5-year-old, hey, what happens? Something really, really cool, and just let him go off. It's neat. And really, that's the whole game. If you know that, you can play No Thank You Evil. However, there are levels of play, and we'll talk about those in a bit. No Thank You Evil uses Cypher System's concept of your character is a sentence. That is, I am an adjective, noun, who, verbs. But in No Thank You Evil, this is leveled. So if you are a triangle level player, and this is for players about as young as 4, they are simply I am a noun. So they're an astronaut, they're a princess, they're a fighter, and that has a base number of stats that they're going to use for that character, and nothing changes from that because the complexity is dialed way down. When you are a square level player, typically players age 6 to 10, although folks as young as 5, and my 5-year-old is one of them, could also handle this pretty well, you can become an adjective noun. And that adjective is going to be changing some of those stats because they have a special trait that's going to make them smarter or faster or stronger. So they're a little different from the base. And then circle is for players 10 and up, so older kids and adults, and they use the full sentence. I am an adjective noun who verbs. Now, each noun, adjective, and verb in this game is going to add some complexity to the characters. So once you add a different element, it's going to be a much more complex play style. It's all pretty simple. It's not a huge change, but it's enough to keep players of different experiences or reading ability able to play the game with comfort and with interest. The leveling ability is really neat. So a young child can just play a fighter. Just gives them their base traits, and that's it. A character or a player who is ready for something a tad more complex, they can play a super strong fighter. This is what my 5-year-old is playing right now, and that just makes some adjustments to the core stats. More experienced players can add the verb and get a special ability. So you have a super strong fighter who bashes evil, and the bashes evil verb is anytime you shout, I smite you, when you do an attack, you deal 1 more point of damage. And that's the way this game works. There's also a simple list of all nouns, adjectives, and verbs in this book that are going to give you the basis for how you create your character, but it is easy to create your own. And if your character wants to play a noun or wants to use a verb or wants to have an adjective that doesn't appear in the book, you just use what's there as a basis and make your own. That's the great part of this game. It opens up the player's imagination. And when you are playing with younger kids, get ready for some gonzo stuff. There are 4 attributes in this game. First, you have tough, which is what you spend to try harder for strength tasks. And tough is also going to be the first pull from which you take any damage away from. So if you get hit by an attack and you have tough, you take it away from tough. And then it goes to the other traits down below. Second trait is fast. You can use this to spend it and try harder for defense tasks and also for your ranged attacks. So if you have a bow and you want to aim really well, you can spend fast. Then you have smart. If you're trying to figure out a door or a computer, you can spend it to try harder for any mentally tasking exercise. Pretty straightforward. Finally, you have awesome, and as I mentioned up above, this is meant to be spent on others. If your character spends an awesome point, it lowers the goal of another player's task by 1. Very, very simple. Now, there are also resources in this game. You have coins, that's just used to buy stuff, but the more interesting one is called fun. You use fun to replenish your pools. So if you're in the middle of a fight or an activity, you can spend a point of fun and say that your character is doing something fun in the middle of the fight, and that's going to be their entire turn. They're going to color a page, they're going to sing a song, they're going to play a song or do a dance, and once they do that, all their stats go back up full. And so this is kind of cool. You can also spend fun to revive characters who have had all their pools lowered. This means they are conked out, nobody dies in this game, and it gets them moving again. So fun is one of the key resources of the game, and when you complete adventures, this is going to be one of the cool rewards that you get, because the more fun you have, the longer you can go in the adventure without being conked out or staying that way. Really well done. Characters, in addition to their traits and their abilities, also have these goofy companions, and they can range from everything like a tiny T-Rex all the way up to a super fast car. They are companions on the journey with the characters. And at square and circle level, this is how they get ciphers. So the cipher system comes into No Thank You Evil that way. Ciphers are simply one-use abilities that you can spend and then they just go away. And then once your companion is fed one of their favorite treats, they can actually draw from a deck and get a completely new cipher to spend. So the idea is that you want to be spending ciphers and getting them, or new ones, all over again. It's really kind of cool. In addition to the goofy companions, you have goofy equipment, because everything that you hold is carried by a gotcha backpack. This is a multi-armed creature which can keep you from being surprised from behind. It's literally going, hey, there's somebody back there. It's really weird. Weapons are narratively nuts, but they all have the same mechanics and most do 2 points of damage. This is not a huge combat-centric game. It's just part of the mechanics that's built into it. There's special equipment in the game, things like the favorite princess dress or a dangerous princess dress, or I think there's something that shoots bubbles at people. It's all clever and cute and weird. And in addition to all of this, players are encouraged to be imaginative on their own. So my 23-year-old daughter is playing, and her cool pirate doesn't just have a miniature cannon. She's got a miniature cannon that shoots genetically engineered bananas. Why? I don't know. It's just what kind of fit the character at the time. My 5-year-old son's super strong fighter doesn't just have a sword. He's got a sword that sings while it's being used. And when he's playing with my daughter actually has to think up the songs and sing them while he is doing his role. When we're playing by himself, he thinks up his own songs, and the other day he thought it was hysterical to have the sword singing Let It Go as he was trying to smite giant sentient animal crackers. And then lately he's just decided that the sword running around is being swung at people going, hi, I'm Wes from DM Tales. He just thinks it's absolutely hysterical, and I love everything about it. The character sheets of this game are simple. They are filled with bright, colors, they are no clutter, and they're designed to be used by multiple reading levels. So the traits are all marked by symbols and text. So if your child is not reading yet or doesn't know all the sight words, they can just see that symbol and know that's strong, that's fast, that's smart, that's awesome, that's fun. And that's really cool. And because you have tokens that you hand out, we'll talk a little bit about that in a second, there's minimal erasing on the sheet. So once you get stuff down, it can pretty much stay there until something permanent changes the character. The default setting for No Thank You Evil is the world of Storia, which is reached through magical portals in the child's room. And one of the things it does point out, if your child's freaked out, you can say, the only people who can use these portals are you, no one else, and nothing's coming through. And my 5-year-old doesn't have any problem with that, so that's been kind of fun for me. Storia has 4 realms, and they are marked by the 4 portals that you use to get to them. That's out the window, behind the bookshelf, into the closet, and under the bed, which is, of course, the creepiest realm of them all. I have to admit, I am still reading this section of the book because by the time I got to it, my son just wanted to play. Grab the book. Let's go play now. But even though I haven't read all of it yet, I can tell you this, I'm in love with this world because it is filled with wacky stuff like sentient bowling pins and giant queen bees and a mini mall which has been shrunk down by an evil wizard to the size of a human foot that you have to use a special sliding board to get into. And there is a stone dragon that used to be alive that has 2 waterfalls pouring out of its nostrils called Dragon Snot Falls. This is a fun place, and there are puns and wackiness everywhere, and it lets children's imaginations go wild. My 5-year-old loves looking at the map on the back of the rule book and saying, I want to go there, make up an adventure, and off we go. Now, as you saw in the opening, this is sold as a box set. No Thank You Evil comes in a 11¼ by 9-inch box. That's at least how I measured it. It is really thick cardboard, so it's going to be around for a while, and it is covered in colorful art. This is, in fact, why my 5-year-old was so drawn to it after reading The Little Game Master. But it's not just a pretty box. There is a good amount of content inside. There is a 96-page rule book, which also has that world setting of Storia. This is an 8 by 10 book, which is soft cover, but interestingly enough, it is not perfect binding. I see signatures along the spine, but I'm not sure exactly how it's put together. I've asked Monte Cook Game to tell me what type of binding this is, because I've never encountered this before, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. Maybe I'll put it in the description below or in one of the comments. In addition to the 96-page rulebook, there is also a 40-page adventure book, also 8 by 10. This one is saddle-stitched, but it is not just adventures because the first 13 pages are about how to run the game and create adventures for No Thank You Evil. So it's a great resource book for maybe parents or older children who have never done this before and they want to learn how to run the game. Very, very cool. There's a number of character sheets inside the box, and they are marked for each level of play. I must admit that I did not notice this at first. Both my daughter and my son are playing square level characters, and they are playing with triangle level sheets. This is not a big deal because really it just amounts to putting extra spaces on for their character. What type of sentence are they creating? And they haven't noticed anything about it, and it's easy enough to move them over if we want to at some point in the future. Aside from character sheets, you also have several decks of cards inside the book, including ciphers, your companions, and monsters. Monsters are almost impossible for me to get a hold of because my son constantly wants to look at the art of the different cards. But I love the idea that you have these decks out there because when a character uses a cipher and they get fed a treat, you can just hold the deck out and they can pick a new cipher, and that's their cipher for the day. If they want to go on an adventure and you want to randomly choose a monster, you can flip through and think of the different monsters they might be able to deal with depending on how many people are in the party and put them out saying, here's a random monster, pick one of these cards and we'll go on an adventure. And that's so easy to do. And my son, the first time he played, he was so excited because he wanted ninja zombies so bad, and that was the card that he actually picked. It was really, really cool. You also have these tokens that are punchable, that are on several cardboard sheets inside the box. These match the traits on the character sheet, and as I mentioned earlier, you use these to keep track of where people's pools are instead of having to constantly erase and rewrite numbers on the sheet, and so that's going to make it a lot easier. You spend 3 tough in order to do something, or you take 3 points of damage, you just take 3 tough away, and the number of tokens they have, that's their current value. And then at the end of a session, if you get a lot of coins or you get some new fun, then you can do one simple erase and put the new number in, and that's it. It's a really cool design. You also have 5 6-sided dice inside the game. 6s are the anti-evil logo, or as my 5-year-old puts it, I rolled evil. The dice are actually oversized and they are perfect for smaller hands. I do recommend having a dice tray so that your 5 or 4-year-old does not throw the dice across the room and threaten to break certain glass objects that would get you into trouble. Dice trays, they are wonderful for everybody. Now, the cool thing about the interior of the box is that it's not just all the content. The bottom has a tray that is set up to take the dice, the tokens, and then above that to hold all the other content. So everything's organized, it's not flopping around, and it's easy to set up and break down because everything's just there in one spot. The whole package is fantastic. And the layout is also beautiful as well. It is colorful. The callouts and the tables, they are bright and they are bold. Tables have this nice alternating row color, and they also have this dotted white border that goes around each of the rows. For younger children who aren't used to reading tables yet, this is a good way to keep their eye moving across a row. They don't know how to just follow the color across. That dotted line is really, really helpful. The examples of play are really well done, and each character name is given a different color as the narrative unfolds, so it's easy to keep track of who is speaking. So if you have an older child who might not be so great at being able to follow characters through, this is helpful for them. The artwork is cartoony, it is bold, it is weird, and I love it. And as I have pointed out a couple of times, so does my 5-year-old. Keeps trying to snatch those monster cards from me or snatch the book out of my hands just to look at the pictures and flip through. And for all the boldness, the layout is clean. It's got the same font for headings and body text, although the headings are going to be colored differently depending on their level inside the text. And the different sections of the book, they're all going to have different color borders, which helps with navigation, and that's something that Monte Cook does with just about all of their books. The headers of the pages are very simple. On the left page, you have the No Thank You Evil logo. On the right, you have the section title. Footers are equally simple. You have a quarter circle on the lower corners of each of the left and the right page. That's going to have the page number in it, and that's pretty much it. In fact, the entire rule book feels like an elementary school workbook, and it is done perfectly. My 5-year-old navigates it like a pro because this is what he encounters when he's at school. It's engaging, it is bright, it's easy for him to flip through pages and see what's going on. It is really well designed. And I do have to say, as beautiful as other books can be, when you compare it to books that go for more grit and danger and edge, reading through No Thank You Evil is just this nice change of pace. It's just nothing but fun. So if you haven't figured it out by now, I'm smitten with No Thank You Evil. It's just a distilled Cypher system, which means I know how to teach it to anyone who wants to sit down at the table and get them playing in about 3 minutes. The simple rolling mechanics are perfect for younger players, and the world is colorful, bright, and full of silliness. It's great. But more importantly than me being smitten with it, my 5-year-old is smitten with it. He just wants to play. And because I can think up a simple adventure in a matter of seconds, and I'm not even exaggerating at that point, it's easy to do. I think up the quest, I hand him a sheet, pass out the tokens, off we go. If his sister's around, she joins the fun. Now, I do have to point out that my 5-year-old still wants to smack everything with his sword because, well, I got a sword, I might as well use it. But he's really loving the role-playing aspects of the system when he takes time to do it, and will actually hold conversations with me in character, talking to me as though I am the NPC he's encountered in the game, including recounting past adventures of, well, this is what we did, as if I wasn't there. He's got the role play down. You got to play role-playing game with kids. It's so much fun. And I got to tell you, if you've got smaller children, ages 4 and up, you should check this game out. It is a perfect introduction to a role-playing game. It's no muss, it's no fuss. Adventures take about 30 minutes to about 45, depending on how many players or how complex you want the story to get. But it's really simple, it's fast, and it is perfect for the age that my 5-year-old is. If you want to pick this game up, you can pick it up from Monte Cook Games website. It's $39.99 for the box set, $14.99 for the PDF alone, although I would not recommend just getting the PDF of this because so much of the value is in those manipulatives of having the tokens. And if you do want to get a combo, which I think is something I would recommend, it's $44.99 from the website. I am bummed that I didn't think about asking to buy the combo when I was at PAX Unplugged. I'm probably going to pick up the PDF at some point in the near future. So I've got a lot coming up. Right now I'm trying to read the Marvel Multiverse RPG, which is taking me a little bit to get into because I've just read a whole bunch of mechanical light games, and Marvel Multiverse it's really crunchy. It's not a bad system, I don't think, but it's much more crunchy, so my brain is taking a little bit to reacclimate to that. After I finish reading Marvel Multiverse, the lineup is rather large. I have Godforsaken, which is the fantasy supplement for Cypher System, sitting on my shelf. Then I have Shadow Dark sitting over on the bed right now, laughing at me because I've barely looked at that. And then I have on the shelf behind me Dark Places and Demogorgons for Old School Essentials, which is laughing at me even harder than Marvel or Shadow Dark because I've not even opened that book at this point and I really want to get to it. So that's driving me a little bit bonkers. I also have a conversation coming up with Bob Worldbuilder on January 25th at noon. I'm really excited to talk with him about his journey of becoming kind of a D&D voice and now branching out into more RPG content. Beside all of that, I've also got DM Scotty scheduled to come back on after the new Easy D6 book comes out. That is Wasted World. I'm going to get that book and spend a week reading it and then try to get him on to talk about all the cool changes it brings for Easy D6. This is going to be a ton of fun. If you didn't read, if you didn't watch my first conversation with DM Scotty, go check it out on the site because he is so much fun, a great conversation partner, and has some neat stories to tell about creating the system. And aside from all this, I am in the process of planning a convention for April 12 through 14. It's going to be held at my church. We have called it ECCLESICON. It will be Friday night, all day Saturday, and Sunday afternoon. Can't really be in the building playing games below where we're doing worship for church on Sunday morning, although, shouting praise God when you roll a 20, I guess that fits, but we're just not going to overlap those two things. So it'll be Sunday afternoon for ECCLESICON. I am freaking out about this because it is about the biggest thing I have ever planned. We're going to give it our best shot. There are some amazing games that have been scheduled. I'm trying now to invite more special guests to do talks. We're going to try to do a big group watch of a funnel for Pathfinder 2E, and I'm going to try to set up a flea market. We'll see how that all works out. So if you are in the South Jersey, Philadelphia area or want to do a little bit of travel to come to ECCLESICON in April, I would love to see you. The website is up. The link is in the description below, and registration for it should go up, if not at the end of this month, early in February. I want to get some more of my special guests set up before I open up registration fully, but I'm really looking forward to it and also nervous as all get out. So I've got a ton going on. It's going to be so much fun. I'm going to be really busy, and this is kind of cool. It's the only time I've ever been excited about being busy in my entire life, and that's kind of neat. So until we see each other again, folks, happy playing, everyone.